All right, well, we have a quorum. Thank you all for being here. And I think we will start. That's one of the suggestion from the last meeting. Huh?
Yes, very good.
Like that?
Yes, very good.
So keep it clean.
So if he's watching, we should make a point, if he's
Yeah.
watching, to see it.
There we go. I'm
We
putting that
want
right.
him to spend another
out in
52
front
cents mailing a
of me.
stamp or something.
I'm not always aware when the camera starts rolling, but I imagine at this point it probably is, since we're starting. So just to remind everyone, this meeting is being recorded by DCTV. The microphones are live.
And they have to be closer.
Yep.
It's hard to hear.
All right, and
Microphone's
talk into the microphone.
Thank you.
Great. All right, very good. So we should get started. And first on our agenda are the minutes. And the minutes have been distributed via email. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Moved.
Jim moved, and a second?
Second?
Okay. Any discussions, corrections, additions? I had a couple of things, and you may have caught some of these. And these are just typo things.
Yep.
Looks like the heading cut off the rest of Massachusetts. So I don't know if that was Cape Cod that went off the edge there, but anyway, it looks like somewhere it got dropped.
Yep.
And then on, I think on page 2, prefacing the housing agenda item, I would strike public hearing because we really weren't in any official public hearing. It was just part of our regular public meeting, open meeting. And then on page 3, just a couple of typos on the, let's see,
Yeah.
last paragraph about housing production plan is just, that last sentence here would say, would read, applicant, there was one qualified applicant but withdrew it, and in FY '24 there are 8 instead of is. And then just at the last sentence, Mr. Vitale then showed a graph, PH, instead of the graft, FT. I think those are just minor.
Okay.
Our minutes are extraordinary in their detail and comprehensiveness. I really appreciate it. If there's a contest for minutes in town hall at all,
I hope not.
I might write to Mr. McGinnis
Even having
and
them.
suggest that we have a contest, and I would wager on our minutes
Well,
being,
there are actually two contests. One is the contest of whether the minutes even exist.
yeah.
And
So I think we get a blue ribbon. I think we get the blue ribbon.
Thank you.
So if I could have a vote on accepting the minutes with the revisions that we just went through with this, getting the correct spelling in Massachusetts, and then the revisions on page 2 and page 3. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. Invoices. We have a couple of invoices. Okay, one is for, let's see, this is one we already had received in prior, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, with the
So this is an invoice from Attorney Salvestano for addressing the open meeting law complaint for a total of $1,540, and you'll see an email attached which breaks down the hours, which is how we had asked. So take a look at that, and then Stuart, when it gets to you, we can entertain a motion to approve. And then $44.75, which is the cost of mailing out the proposals that we received. There you go. Well, you're taking a look at that as it goes along. Also received, I'd been in touch with the Agricultural Commission, let them know that we have an upcoming vacancy, and asked if there was someone who might be interested. There may be someone, so I asked today that if the person sent a letter in, or when they sent a letter in, if they would send me a copy, because, the committee is interested, particularly endorsing an at-large member who may have experience with agricultural preservation. So there may be somebody, but I don't know a name. I can't say a name at this stage. And then I mentioned that we would like to invite the Ag Commission to our April 9th meeting, and they were very positive about that. So I think we're set to have the Ag Commission members meet with us on April 9th. And we will talk about agricultural preservation issues and priorities in town. And this is part of what we want to do with the Ag Commission, like basically once a year. So that's going to be good. That'll be on April 9th.
Can I make a motion to
Yeah.
approve the payment to Anthony Savastano?
Yes, in the amount of, remind us,
$1,540, I believe.
Buddy, just a question.
yes.
Because that was a town meeting issue, would that be something that would come out of general government, or something we would have to pay? Because of the way it was written for town meeting itself?
Which being a town meeting issue.
The Savastano bill, is that someone that was the bill that they had to go back and forth with the state, right? Over the language?
I think, let's see, look at,
It's halfway between Jim and
yeah.
Jim.
I thought that was because we didn't advertise it was an open meeting, and blah, blah, blah.
No, that's a lot of money for an open meeting thing, right?
I think, what's it say on it, Joe? First page, next page. It's Higgins, it's Mr. Higgins. He complained because we didn't do something right. We didn't notify somebody. So he.
Okay, I thought that this one was the town meeting one.
No.
I didn't realize that it was
That's okay.
$1,000 for
That's what that's about.
Higgins. Okay.
All right, great.
The second one is make a motion to approve CPC mailings, $44.75.
So on the first motion, I don't know if we actually took a vote.
No, we
We had
need
a
a
question.
second.
No, I just had a question on that.
Okay.
I looked at it quickly, but I spaced out the
All right.
actual.
So if we could have a second on the first motion, which
Second.
is Savastano's bill, okay? Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. And then on, we have a second on the invoice to pay for the mailing of proposals.
Second,
Thank you. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, some project updates. The project extensions and recapture funds has all been taken care of, so the letters for extending terms to various sponsors with active projects have gone out. And the instruction to Ms. Fernandez, town accountant, on recapturing the funds for a couple of those projects, as we had discussed at the previous meeting, has gone out, so that's been taken care of. Quarterly report form, Michelle is working on having it put into a PDF format that's fillable. And once that's done, then I will communicate to all of our active sponsors, explain what this is, and then I'll give them probably, a little bit of leeway on the first one, and then we'll kind of get on track with them, just in case there's questions or they didn't totally get what we need them to do. Dartmouth Cultural Council Grant Agreement, that I think it's prepared for signature, so I will sign that, and then it'll go to Mr. McGinnis and then to the Cultural Center. The delay was getting the Exhibit B information from them, which is kind of the breakdown of what they project the breakdown of expenditures to be. But we'll get that squared away. The Pascomanskett Drinking Water Project, we have a memorandum of understanding that's been drafted, and I sent that out a couple months ago, I think. The town is, and what I explained is that typically in our all of our grant agreements and MOUs, we hold back 10% of the value of the funds, of the project funds, just to make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and in particular with land acquisition, we hold back 10% of the value of the grant until the conservation restriction has been recorded. The town would like us to consider waiving that 10% holdback because they say that it presents some difficulties for them financially in how to then make up for the actual transaction for the land to front that other, I think it'd probably be about 25,000, 20,000, something like that.
Closing, so at the closing, they want all of it.
Yeah, yeah. In other private acquisitions, folks like DNRD front that and then they recoup, they pay themselves back once we release the funds. So that's a question, if the committee would consider waiving it for this one project, which would then allow them to draw down all of the funds for closing.
An honest opinion?
Mm-hmm.
If it's $25,000 and the town is gonna hold, it's the town paying it, right? Correct?
Yes, the town would
Well,
have to
if-
find a way of having that money available
If the town
at
doesn't
closing.
have $25,000 to hold, then I think we're all in trouble. I mean, I think that we should, I've never been to one of those, so I don't know, but we want to make sure everything is, all the I's and T's and everything else is done before we release all that. But that's my feeling.
Yeah, Mr. Cruz, who's the attorney?
Brian.
Brian, who works for Attorney Savastano, said we would the town would either need to appropriate additional funds, or DPW would need to find some way to utilize its operational budget and then square the accounting after getting the rest of the money from the CPC, getting paid back. He believes that given that the town is the recipient, and there's no concern about some third party being difficult, I'd ask that the money not be withheld. And he also notes that he believes that the reimbursement grant from the state for this acquisition, that money, we'll be getting, it requires that the restriction be recorded first. I'm not sure about that, because you'd have to kind of, property, I think, would have to change hands, and then the restriction may happen almost simultaneously, but I think probably, you think probably in that order. First, first the property changes hands, and then the
Record it.
restriction happens. So other comments?
Might this be an appropriate use of the Finance Committee Reserve Fund? I mean, as, you know,
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
pot of money,
Yeah.
which is for unanticipated, so on. And if miraculously it comes back to the Finance Committee Reserve Fund, everybody's happy. And if it does not, then we have, you know,
Good point.
and I've never heard anything about just how, what kind of tearing of clothing the Finance Committee does when they're asked for something out of their reserve fund. I don't know how large it is in this town. Anybody know? I mean, it's an annual appropriation.
Right.
That's their slush fund.
The town does,
And-
the town does this, like, fronts money
All the time.
all the time, especially when the grants come in, when it's a reimbursement grant from the state. I mean, they put the money up front first, and then they get reimbursed back from the state, and it goes back and forth. So it's nickels, dimes, and quarters. We're not talking about a tremendous amount of money, so.
Yeah.
I don't know why they just couldn't come up with the
Right.
funds. I kind of agree with you with the finance committee. I mean, that's something that's simple. That's something that that's almost like a line item transfer from one to another.
Stuart, did you?
I mean, I kind of agree with Margaret and Jim's perspectives, you know, there've been how many projects that, and we've done them all these different ways, and for them to make their request seems a little bit, you know, unnecessary.
You know, the town entities have done the same thing. I mean, I don't
Every,
reinvent the wheel here, but
Yeah. Chris, did you have? any
No,
thought?
I agree.
And if, you know, if the deal goes through and our need hasn't been recorded, we're pushing on a string at that point. And so,
Okay. So as the chair, I look around, is there a motion to waive the 10% holdback for the Pascomansit project?
sounds like no.
Okay, so we will move on. I agree, I do, the town has done this kind of thing before, probably is a small amount, and also a quick turnaround, because as soon as that restriction is filed,
To get the
that money
money.
will be released,
Right.
the check will be cut in a week, basically, because it's already sitting here as opposed to waiting for the state or some other entity. Okay. Very good. So, today, we're gonna go through proposal review. And the task we have today is to identify if there are any questions or if there's any additional information we would like from any of these proposals. That gives us the opportunity to forward that to the sponsors with the intention at our March meeting to have a public hearing and presentation of proposals, and then we'll, usually we have everything we need by the end of that meeting to make recommendations for town meeting warrant. So today, we just want to kind of get a sense of what our questions are and any issues that we want them to address. So let's take it up in the order of the agenda. So the first is a Cornell Trail Pond Development and Safety Enhancement Project. The amount requested is $24,000 in CPA. Total project cost is $120,000. Let's see, where they expect the balance of this is to come from, I believe, a state grant. Let's see if I see a note on that. Yeah, Mass Trails grant is where they are applying for the other 90-some odd thousand, $96,000. So are there any questions, information we'd like on this?
Buddy? I'm sorry.
Well, I just have a question to procedure, not on
Yes.
this, okay? So, do we invite these people in the March meeting to come? Oh, we invite them, so
Yes.
if they don't get an invitation, in other words, if they have to be invited, they couldn't like come tonight.
Right, tonight is
Okay.
just
All right.
for us to kind of talk about them, and then, right,
All right,
yep.
thank you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the proponent is this Cornell Pond Advisory Committee.
Say that again?
And the sponsor is this, the Cornell Pond Advisory Committee.
Well, that's one of the questions I had, is just to clarify the recipient, so there's this committee, but is it the town that's,
Would be the- this is the
describes the
town.
sponsor as the town? So who's gonna handle this from the town? I don't know if this is Chris or the committee, I don't know this committee.
Part of it's on park property. I know the group came to us last meeting, several representatives from that group. More specifically, they were concerned about the spillways, as far as going back and forth over the spillways. They've been doing a lot of work up there themselves. Red and some other, he's the unofficial
Yep.
there of Dartmouth, precinct 1 there. So they came in front of us about putting a bridge over the, one of the spillways. This has been going on, they've been in contact with the DPW, they actually went in front of the selectmen for that, so I'm guessing it's them, but I think it's the town, I think Chris has taken the lead on that for the grant. If anything, it may fall back to Parks, because I believe it's on our property up there.
Right, that was my question, is it on Parks property?
Yeah, it's on park property, yeah. Yeah, we've given them clearance to go up, they've gone up there and cleared brush and debris. I mean, if you've never talked to those guys up there, they are, you know who they are, right?
Right?
From North Hicksville Road?
Yes, they've come before.
They've come in
us.
front of us before, they're super knowledgeable, yeah, I
Yes.
mean, they're great,
Really
great
nice,
guys.
yeah.
And Gloria
Several
Bancroft
months
is kind of, I think
last
she's
year.
the leader of that group right now, so.
How Gloria is?
Yeah. So the question I think I had for them to clarify is, who's gonna take the lead in this project? Is it gonna be Parks and Recreation? Is it gonna be Chris?
I think Chris is the person who wrote the grant, and I think he's
Right.
probably in collaboration with Tim, that's gonna be my guess on it.
Yeah, so it would be helpful to get that
We
kind of
need an answer for that, for
clarification
sure.
from them. And other questions? I think another one I had is, what the status of the trail, just to get an update on the trail grant request. So I think the application's been in, so maybe we can get an update on the trail grant request from the state.
Excuse me, another question.
Yeah.
When you send the invitation out, do you put in what the questions are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they will get a letter
With
with
the
the
questions.
questions
Okay,
and
thank
information
you.
and stuff like that, yeah. Yep. The design services seem pretty costly for a trail and some footbridge kind of work. So.
It is a pretty extensive
That's a good
bridge.
point.
Yeah, so I'd be curious about,
If you look at,
just,
if you look at the picture, that's the spillway, and I know that, again, the DPW was involved in it originally. Again, it has to structurally, I think, because it's going over a water thing, I think it requires, I won't say Army Corps of Engineers, but I'm sure there's some state regulations with that. For there.
yeah. So I'd be curious just to get a sense of, like, did they have other cost proposals for this? Just kind of, it'd be good to get a sense of like why that, where those costs are. It does seem pretty expensive for design services, because this doesn't build anything. This is the design and permitting aspect of
Yeah.
it, I believe.
I thought the permitting was excessive. That's a lot of money for permits, $36,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Although considering they're only asking us for about a fifth or a quarter of the money, it's not
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or information we'd like on this?
So, you had explained costs or other quotes,
Yeah.
other quotes or estimates. Okay.
Okay. Let's go then to the harbor economic assessment. This is a request from the Waterways, it says Town of Dartmouth, so maybe not Waterways. Would certainly involve Waterways. Town of Dartmouth, $8,000 for a harbor economic analysis project. And this would look at the impact of Dartmouth's waterfront on the local economy and provide strategies for future investments by the town in its recreational facilities and open space areas. And it's matching funds for Seaport Economic Council grant. So the total cost of this project would be $40,000, $8,000 from CPA funds. Questions? Furrowed brow over there. Yeah.
I mean, I just found myself wondering, is this a community preservation project? It's admittedly, some fair fraction of what happens on the surface of the harbor is recreational. And I suppose it meets some definition of open space. But I think I'd have to read fine print of I guess, community preservation guidelines to have a sense that this is legit. I mean,
Yeah, I had the same, that was the same question I had, is, in the, the community preservation, their operative words are like, acquire, create, preserve. Those are kind of the operational, words for the use of CPA funds. Acquire, create, preserve, support, rehabilitate. So I didn't see anything, and then especially when you look at what the firm's proposal is, I mean, I definitely see that it would probably be a valuable thing for the town to have done. But the proposal really is geared at, some of the things I've underlined here: potential effects on jobs, business sales, household income. So these are all really important, but they're not CPA. It's not in the ballpark for CPA funding.
And from my board's perspective, I don't recall even discussing this at any meeting at all. I know they mentioned Pontiganset Park, but I was just confirming, to make sure, I just checked with the superintendent, and I don't remember this discussion with this at all, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's specifically,
Is the proposal by that third-party business part of this application?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not sure if it's opening on my phone, but.
What?
oh, great, thank you. I mean, one thing I can do also is send this proposal over to Savastano's office and say, you want to give us an opinion on it. It will cost us, obviously we pay for that, but that is what they're there for. We could have them opine on it, but I didn't see where this could fit into the CPA kind of eligible kind of chart.
Will Stuart Saginaw answer a phone call?
Yes, though they over the years have become, this is the Community Preservation Coalition, they've become very hesitant to give opinions ever since some things went awry with that Newton Church case several years ago.
Oh.
So they've refrained from giving opinions. And so
You're always wrong
he
in
will,
Newton.
he will probably let me know, so I can let him know, and he will probably be very confirming, but also advise that this isn't,
It's-
don't run with this opinion kind of thing.
Okay, but he may give you a framework of statement
Yeah,
that,
Yeah.
that you can, or that we can say with conviction.
yeah,
That would be, I think, more valuable than town council's, because he's got infinitely more
Yeah.
experience with CP matters. And-
yeah. My view, this doesn't really sit in any gray area. It's pretty bright line that it doesn't cross.
Yeah,
So I'd be fine with just reaching out to the coalition and saying, we don't see where it fits into the proverbial chart. It's gotta fit in one of these boxes.
okay.
And we don't see where it does that. Okay, I will do that. Then we have the harbor design and dredging project. Total budget for the project is $50,000, $10,000 of which is CPA funds. And this would look at the feasibility of, this is the feasibility of dredging the harbor to improve safety, navigability, and accessibility of the harbor for recreational, transient, and commercial boaters. Just for one, this I do see is something that could, forward the recreational kind of potential and actual use of the harbor, so, yeah. Jim?
I took the liberty of going to the Community Preservation Coalition website, where there's a database of every community preservation project ever recorded
Yeah,
in Massachusetts, and looked for ones where the name of the project included the word dredging. And there were well over 25 dredging projects. Two of them were called historic, one in Westport, one in Granville, wherever that is. Two were called recreation, and those were ponds in Mashpee and Sandwich. Ponds or inland streams. And all the rest were classified as open space. So that's
yep,
just to not torture our own minds, but use the
Yeah.
minds of others.
Yeah. Great.
We may want to consider this open space rather than, rather than recreational. Certainly not a playground.
For fish.
Well, sailing's recreational, but
So are there some questions or information that we would like to have them address in their presentation?
what kind of objectives would there be in the dredging? I mean, to achieve a stable depth of so-and-so? Stuart, do you know anything about this?
Well, I think that's a good question to ask the applicant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean,
I mean, the area that they have
I mean, I
highlighted,
have opinions about it, but I think that we're trying to develop questions to ask the applicant as
Yeah.
opposed to asking each other.
okay,
Yeah.
but, I mean,
from a picture perspective, it makes sense, the area that they're looking at it is the channel. That's there.
I mean, the landing area has gotten silted over big time since a couple different things happened, including the drainage of the little fart pond in the corner.
the-
Yeah.
That's brought the silt further north,
Yeah.
so the landing is getting a little bit dodgier. I think the main fairway is fine, it moves a little bit, but.
I mean, I can go where he parks, where the harbor master parks his boat right there. I think it's that canoe launching area.
Yeah.
That's a little tight. There's a couple of obstructions and such that are there, that I know.
Yeah, I haven't actually really gone in there too often on the.
The rest of it, it's right underneath the bridge.
Yeah,
That's a straight shot onto the bridge, and I've never heard,
Yeah,
and I've run around.
that's something they have to explain. I mean, I don't know,
yeah.
I don't
Near
understand. If the
row one
Lusitania
of
was
the
pulling in,
mooring
I guess it
field,
would be
Yeah.
a problem, buddy, but I don't, I mean, the landing and the section by the bridge, closest to there, I know that there are issues that are there. You can see that at some of the lower tides. The rest of it, maybe they'll explain why
Right,
it seems to kind of go close to Davison Trip, Concordia, and then it kind of comes out by the yacht club, small boat area there.
yeah, we're looking at right here.
Yeah. Maybe they can explain
Right,
that part of
so
it.
we can ask ultimately kind of what's the objective in, what would be the
Yeah.
objective for the dredging of the harbor? We know this is the design piece of it, but what's ultimately?
And the depths, if they can,
Depth,
if they can bring, if they can highlight that area that's, especially on the other side of the bridge here, in the commercial part of it, if they can give us the depth.
So a depth that they would like to try
Well,
to
what
reach?
the current depth is now, what the
Yeah,
reason for
okay.
going deeper there. Again, on the north side of the bridge, I can understand that, because I agree with Stuart, it's.
yeah, I
a
mean,
lot of-
there is a lot of silting up in here too.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know it.
I just know that that's kind of like the main thoroughfare for the bridge.
but you kind of learn where not to go, but
Yeah.
you can't really avoid this area because you have to go there.
Yeah.
Probably nobody knows that better than your people.
What's that?
Where the water isn't.
Yeah.
Now, I'd just be curious to see what the depths are, what they're looking for, ultimately what they're looking for there.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. They go right into the little landing at Water Street.
Yeah, that's, that one there, I'm saying north of the bridge, I can see that, when they, where he, I guess it'd be the public dock, that's the only one that's available. That is a
So they
little,
can get bigger
that's
boats
a little
into
tight,
to the self-serve pump out.
correct, it's a little tight there.
What, does Steve Mello know what the current depths are now? Harbor master?
Well, if they mark this off, then they must have some type of survey, and we can
Yeah,
go to
they
the,
have.
we
Yeah,
can
they
go to the
must have
NOAA, we can go to the NOAA sites, but I'm just curious to see
Yeah,
what,
me too, I agree,
just to see what
Yeah.
they're looking for there.
okay.
but I think Steve Mello would know what the depth of the
Yeah,
harbor
but I
is.
think they
Well,
spell out.
certainly they have a good approximation.
She should, yeah.
Yeah, because I would have thought it was pretty deep.
Okay,
right-
good, I will add that.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, out of all of it, I mean, that would be the only,
Like super deep.
that area
right
there.
But it's shallow over here.
I've seen somebody standing there, about 50 feet from the breakwater, you know,
From the causeway there?
in waders.
Yeah, along the rocky edge at low tide, yeah.
yeah, low tide, that's what they used to
On,
call it.
above the bridge, north side.
Well, it seems kind of like what they did was they marked off an area,
Right.
some of which is like it is pretty
It's good
accessible to plenty of depth, and other areas on the edges are shallower, so what they're trying to say is make it more uniform throughout that width, I guess.
All right, so we'll
I think I can explain that.
talk about that.
Right.
And then I had just a couple of questions about just the status of the Seaport grant, when the time, you know, is there a deadline that they have for producing the local match? And kind of when the grant was approved, because I think the grant has been out there for a while. So when I look at the, I think there's something in here about from the Seaport folks.
Is that the one that was just returned last meeting?
Yeah, let's see, I think September, no, I don't know if this date was correct, so. So the application, so from the Harbor Management Plan Implementation Committee, their letter to the Seaport Economic Council supporting the application for the town for the dredge feasibility study, that was dated September 2022. So I was just curious about the timing, you know, so that's been a year and a half. Did they just, you know, have they, I'm trying to think here if they, yes, they said would serve as matching funds for its previously awarded Seaport Economic Council grant. So I just wanted, curious when that grant was awarded. So it looks like they applied for it September 2022. When did they hear back from that they got the grant? Just trying to get the timing of this request versus, you know, when this money's been around.
The 40,000, we're talking about the 40,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so it looks like they have the 40,000, I don't know if they've had it for a year, they've had it for 6 months, so they had it, you know, because the application went in September of '22. Just want to get a sense of the timing of things. Any other questions or information for this proposal? Okay. And Michelle, if you need to, you know, tell us if we're going too fast on what we're doing here, because there's a lot of these. Okay. The Apponegansit. I think we should all be wearing waders. We've had so many applications around the harbor, don't you think? Apponegansit Park Dias Landing Master Plan. $75,000 total, 15 of which is requested from the CPA. And the other 60, I believe, is from a Seaport Economic Council. And this is a grant that they've received.
That one's related to the project that we talked about, the one before this?
I thought this was for
This
the
is
other
the
one.
parking lot that the seawall has failed at the margin of the parking lot. Is the,
It's a third separate one related to the,
yeah, this was with us earlier.
Yeah. So it looks like this one, says here's the goal of this project is to develop a comprehensive report of the Dias Landing Apponegansit Park and detail how the town should develop the parcel of land as a whole going forward.
Yeah, I'll say again, the park board has no idea at all what this is about,
Uh-huh.
and would be strongly against developing the parcel as a whole. I'm not quite sure, because I see that we're listed a few times here. Again, I checked with the park forum. Sorry. It may have been a conversation somewhere. We were never briefed. I plan on bringing this next week to our
Yeah.
meeting to discuss this. I just emailed him this. This is not something that we're aware of.
Considering the history, the cheerful history of the earlier discussion about that, the harmony between the Park and Rec Commission and the Waterways Committee, I'd love to have both parties in a room singing in harmony at the same time.
If
Before I appropriate a nickel to any of these bozos.
I concur. This is,
That get recorded.
well, that's okay, because
Yeah.
this is not, this is, again, this is, I won't say it's a shocker, but this is something that my board
Doesn't know about?
doesn't know about.
All right. So we would want to have some understanding of that, because we're from both waterways and parks and recreation. I mean, to your point, Jim, right, the fees, and I think this is where it fits into kind of where this committee offers some, something to the process is,
Now,
you know, our goal is to,
in fairness to the waterways, I read this, this looks like it's coming from the landing master plan, so I'm not sure, because was there a master plan or something developed that we didn't see? Because I remember at town meeting, there was some discussion about the master plan that was
Right.
made, but nobody saw, and maybe this was
I
part
don't
of
know.
that discussion there?
I don't know. But the question, these are the important questions, because what we, as a committee, I think our responsibility, our due diligence is to make recommendations to town meeting of projects that, one, are eligible, two, are beneficial, but three, in kind of a, if this was a three-legged stool, feasible. You know, they don't fall apart. And so it's not a waste of town funds or something that can't be done. So feasibility, and so part of the feasibility here is the partners, or the, you know, are engaged in this. Otherwise, that's really gonna undermine any kind of plan.
But they got this already, right?
They have, yes, they
They've got
have
the $60,000.
funds from the Seaport
Right.
Economic Council, yeah. So we wanna, so it sounds like we wanna have some idea of the participation of Parks and Rec
Yeah.
and Waterways, since they are the entities that are responsible for all the activities on that.
And a suggestion of collaboration and cooperation.
Yes.
I'm perplexed as it's July 28th of 23. And now, of course, again, we have this deadline beating down our throats again for June 30th of 24. Once again,
Right.
the part that's annoying.
Well, my question would be this, how is this $60,000 gonna be divided?
When I
Yeah.
find out, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, who's gonna take care of what?
Right, so
Harmoniously.
that's a good question, so it would be good to get a breakdown
Yes.
of the 60,000.
Yes.
Well,
So we don't have arguments, so
So
who's getting
have-
what and
have
what's
some
gonna be
detail
done
in the
with it?
budget,
Yes.
Devil's in the details.
No, the devil is in the details.
And not to say that the board's gonna be against it, but it'd be nice to know what
Yeah.
Right.
they're doing. And
Right.
that's- Once it gets,
So when's your next meeting for Park?
next week.
Okay.
And then the one thing that, so one thing that's confused me a little bit about this, and I think it's, you know, that proverb, or, you know, that proverb or something about, you know, all the blind people and the elephant thing, you know? So.
It's a rope, it's a tree.
I was starting to have that feeling with several of these harbor-related proposals. In the thing, in that, what's missing for me is the big picture.
Right,
So like there is a harbor management plan.
Right.
So how does how does this master plan fit
fit in.
with the harbor management plan? Are they covering the same waterfront, so to speak, or is it doing something different? Where does the seawall design
Yeah.
fit into this? And where does the Dias Landing expansion fit into this? How does the dredging study fit into this? Because I'm just starting to like, okay, so just take that one little aspect, so seawall, Dias Landing expansion, and dredging. So if that's not coordinated, those three things could really run afoul of each other.
Yeah, I mean, the dredging is kind of separate, because it's like
Yeah.
not related to the land
mean,
at all.
if-
It's just
Well, where they're gonna-
water-based activity.
Except they're gonna dredge up around there, right?
Yeah, when they build a new area there, I think that's what we're saying, we voted on that, for that new,
Yeah.
the new
Does
dock,
this
and
shift
it's right in
things?
that area.
Yeah.
There was,
I don't know.
buddy,
Right.
there was a,
Yeah, well, that would make sense to dredge in the area where the dock's gonna be.
yeah, there was a study that was conducted, though, I think, it was by, it's a Dartmouth resident, I forget his name, but.
Seawall?
No, the harbor, that whole harbor area there was actually a thing done, a survey, I wanna say 2 or 3 years ago, it was either complete. So there's something fairly recent on that, which incorporated, a lot, even that, I forget it, whatever the law is, that people could have like a walkway by the water. That incorporated all that, and it went out, probably about a half a mile or a mile around the harbor to see what the impact would be.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, I can't remember the gentleman's name. But I think it was done through the town of town meeting.
Yeah.
I think it voted, so maybe if we can get that information, that may answer some of your questions.
It does seem to me like two of these Dias Landing ones are very similar to one another.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, so Joe, how can I kind of word this, what we're looking for? But,
I would be looking for the master plan for the harbor development, the regional harbor development. It was phases, it had like different sectors.
okay, yeah.
If I get the information, it'll come to me like at 2:00 this morning. If I remember it, I'll email everybody what the official verbiage was. I'll have to look back at my emails, because I know I got it.
I think there is this harbor management plan.
Let me text out the phone a friend, maybe I can get the.
It wasn't him, was it,
Wise man,
Kevin?
No, it wasn't him.
the harbor,
Oh, well, it's on the harbor management plan.
This is a little different from how we've done presentations in the past when sponsors have come, and I'm wondering if and something I wrote down, might be helpful and I would look to someone like Chris Vitale before we get into all of the harbor-related proposals, someone like Chris, give us the big picture. What's the constellation of all these harbor projects? Seawall, both approved and now proposed. And then the harbor management plan that's been completed. How do all these pieces fit together? Are they truly should we see them as truly just independent? I have my doubts about how all of that can be independent. And how do they all fit together, and how are they gonna be coordinated so that they don't run afoul of each other?
You don't want repetition either. You don't want studies and stuff.
Yeah,
to
of
be
things that have already
repetitious.
been figured
Right.
out, stuff like that.
Where are we with the seawall, Joe?
That got shut down.
Yeah,
That got shut down, was it last month?
or actually, I think a while ago,
Got
but
shut down
yes.
at
Yeah, but
town meeting.
officially the money was returned, I think the money was returned back to
Yes.
CCC.
So it was gonna be too expensive?
The-
No, it just wasn't feasible with everything that they did, what they wanted to do. There was just no, agreement on what they wanted. They wanted to put a berm, 6 or 7 foot high sand berm around almost like, it would have been like Fort Sumter around the park for the beach. So we're like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. And then the seawall what they wanted to do, what we wanted, it just never worked out.
So it basically came to a stalemate, and the firm said to the town, we really can't take it any further. And best for us to kind of with, you know, let's close it up here with, and then I think they asked the town to try to reach some consensus on the kind of solutions that they're looking for, and then
Yeah, that grant that they put in for
Reapply.
it too was more of a, like a resiliency type thing, so that it fell into different guidelines. It wasn't so much a mechanical thing. They wanted to use like sand and dirt and other things to do it. They didn't want to actually have a barrier of some sort, like the wall. So I think it was the wrong grant. Also, that was one of the other things, the wrong grant for was there.
But I remember, I think it was you that was saying that it really needs to be done.
Well, the walls are a disaster. I mean, it
Right.
really is, all the way
I
down.
The whole property is gonna
Yeah,
be.
I
The
walked
walls
along
the walls are a
there.
disaster.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that was,
walked
and
along
originally,
there.
Park Board signed on board, when Mr. Murphy came to us, we signed on board, said, yeah, we think it's a great idea, if we could fix that. We were actually looking at, for a small slip there for canoes and kayaks to be
Right.
able to tie up.
Right.
Green space on the
Yeah,
top, I
it'd be
mean,
nice, yeah.
we envisioned it, and then when the engineers came in, the way they envisioned it,
Okay.
it was literally, the berm would have had to come back 20, 25 feet for the height. It would have come into the basketball court, would have affected the playground, it would have affected the cabana. I mean, there was a lot that was not acceptable to us at all. I mean, if they had just focused on the seawall, and which would have gone right around to the landing, I think it would have been fine. With a walkway, we were looking at a walkway, a scenic walkway.
Yeah, that would have been
With
nice.
benches and
Yeah.
tables, something for our residents to actually enjoy. And they came back with a completely different dynamic.
So we need a new engineering firm?
No,
Yeah,
I
so
think it
it's
was
kind of-
I think it was the grant, I think it was the type of grant, from what I understand. I'm not gonna blame anybody specifically.
So my thought was to ask Chris to help us try to understand how all these fit together.
The harbor management plan, it was
was
supposed
Steve-
to be the guiding document
Right.
It
back in
was
like
Steve
2016.
It was Steve Blevin, it was,
But it was a bunch of people from town that came together
Right.
to do it.
he was,
Right.
he was the leader.
Sees the waterfront from like 7 different angles and
Yes.
focuses it on it and.
Select board,
some of the
so-
stuff that
How do
obviously
you
they were
spell
talking
his
about
last
is.
name?
I'm not gonna try, cause that's a disaster there, but it's Steve Blevin, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
him,
Yeah,
he
'cause
was
he was
a
the guy
Dartmouth
from
resident, he
UMass
was
Boston.
like an engineer type
All right.
person. But it was,
Levens, yeah.
Steve Blue.
he's actually authorized, formed by the select board, Paden Harbor Management Plan,
Okay.
Implementation Committee.
He's a local guy.
So
I
that
want
was,
to know how it all fits with
He knows
that.
all about farms.
Okay,
yeah, all right,
Somewhere
Right.
down there.
that's good. It was pretty comprehensive in its
yeah,
development. I mean, it actually went out even sectors, I think it even reached as far as Bakerville Road, I think, as far as the whole thing. It was, they did a good job, it was comprehensive, they did a good job. They interviewed a bunch of people. Generally speaking, probably needs a little bit more tweak, because it's been,
Been 5, 6, 7 years now.
it's been a while. I say 3, but it could be longer
It's
than
more
that.
than, it's less, it's more like 2017.
Was it
2018.
that long ago? Yeah, I don't know, time flies when we're having fun.
yeah. Okay. The next is the housing production plan. Towns are required to have these 5-year plans. Dartmouth's plan expires, I think in March of this year, I believe.
Thought it was February, no?
Yeah, it says it's somewhere in here. So the request is for $25,000.
But is that the one you sent out?
What's that?
Was that the separate one that you sent out, the email?
No, I think this would have come,
I got Michelle's,
Oh,
I
oh.
4 of them for her.
I'm not sure, the production plan, maybe I did forward that to folks. Because we had gotten it a lot earlier, I think in December or something like that, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I think I forwarded it to folks.
It expires what, February 14th, 2024, is that it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't, yeah.
there you go, right in front of me.
Right.
Thank you. So this would, they're looking to get some technical assistance money from the state, I believe, of $19,600, $690. 25,000 from the CPA, total cost 44,690. They are, I think, applying to see if they can get all of the money, but just to make sure that they haven't, in case they don't, they're proceeding with this application. So the one question I had, well, one is just clarify, I think, on the first page, I think it's just, a typo. They're looking for $25,000, that's what they describe in the little sentence there. But number 4, it says the amount of CPA funding requested, they say 44,690. So I just want to clarify that, I believe they are just looking for the
I'll
25,000.
circle that too.
And so one question I had is if this, so if they're looking for the 25 from us, if they don't get the state funding, what's their backup plan?
I have a comment to make
Yeah.
because, the planning board did the master plan. And the one thing I will say that I found very distressing, and I mentioned it time and time again, and I hate to see it, by the time we get the plans, and probably for this, they always seem to be 2 years behind.
Oh,
In other words,
Interesting, yeah.
in other words, you can get housing statistics from last year already. No problem, you can get them for 2023. So why are we always 2 years behind? I don't like that, I'd like to have this done more currently, and more current figures. Then I don't wanna see 2 years, cause we all know what housing's done in the last couple of years. So that's my only point with them, I wanna see more up-to-date figures, okay?
I think
don't
that's
know
a point
if
you should raise when we,
I did, yes.
Yeah.
And I raised it with the planning too, when we did the master plan. But they said they couldn't get it. And I know that, for instance, MLS, everybody knows what multiple listing is, okay? Well, you can get those every quarter. So why can't they get more up-to-date plans? That's my question.
any questions or any other information on the housing production plan?
It's certainly the thickest of the applications.
Yeah, well, yeah, I almost printed the whole darn thing
Yeah.
till I saw it.
Yeah.
It was like, uh-oh.
I feel badly that I have a paper copy that I haven't even attempted to read. But my only reaction to this is this a hollow exercise? Will this plan actually represent a tangible plan to do things and to commit, for the town to commit talent and resources to producing housing? Certainly, the history is not encouraging.
Totally.
And and one part of me says, why bother? But I don't know.
One is they're,
Somebody talk me out of my gloom.
yes, well, one is they're required to do it.
Yeah,
The state requires
yeah, you have to have it.
them to do it. That's
Okay,
one
so-
thing.
So we've got to
Yeah.
go through an exercise.
Well,
and
can we
produce a
have one
suitably
that's,
thick
Yeah.
boilerplate document? Can we borrow one from another town and just,
or develop one that we really feel
Right.
can be
well, I
implemented?
mean, but,
Yeah,
how do we get a
Yeah.
commitment toward that from, outside
All
of
the-
this room?
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
anyway, that's my gloom on this. And,
I think one of the things that's, it does sound like will be different is this committee and the housing authority will be part of will have input into this plan, which is something that's never happened before. which I think makes a whole lot of sense, given that we have the potential to put serious money in, through this committee, through the CPA, put serious money into viable projects. So it kind of makes sense that we as a committee will have some input into that production plan. But yeah, it really needs to be not just throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Right,
but what are the things that Dartmouth thinks they can do? And, yeah.
And so, I mean, the influence on it needs to be, from more than this committee.
well, it is,
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Because you have the select board and the
Voice
planning
my-
board that's responsible too. But after going through the master plan, which I was not happy with, we need that figures, my feeling, in my opinion, is that we need more current, up-to-date figures before we make decisions.
The next project is the Northern Scenic Greenway Design. Get that right? Yeah. Total cost of this project is $200,000, $25,000 requested from the CPA in Dartmouth. And this is a Mass Trails grant of $160,000. And then another $15,000, I believe, has been raised by South Coast BA Bicycle Association. I should know that. So this is for design and engineering for a bike path through Dartmouth that connects to Westport and New Bedford. There's efforts of communities to build a continuous bike path from the Rhode Island border to the canal, basically. I think of what all this and different pieces are coming together.
Hasn't Mattapoisett done this already with Fairhaven?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is, you can see that
Yes.
some of aspects of this, like Fairhaven, Mattapoisett,
Marion,
Marion,
yep.
I think are well-established bikeway.
And she came before us and she did a very good job with this.
So any questions or information we would like
Sure.
to ask?
This is that young lady that came in.
Yes.
Yeah.
She came in and, she did a very good job
The
with
one
what,
that I asked if we were doing it in the woods, and they said, no,
Yes.
now they're gonna go through, okay.
yes, yeah. You
Yeah,
asked
no.
that question, yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember silly things in life. Yeah, this,
Yeah, I think it's a good,
yeah, I think it's a good project, I think that one's.
Yeah,
That one's, they've been working on, they've been pretty persistent, they've been
Yes.
working on that for a while, even with Red
Yeah.
Barnes was still here.
yeah,
I know they've been in front of us.
yep. And it's a good job. I thought it was,
Yeah.
I think it's a good proposal, application,
And
everything.
it's a good fit.
Yes.
For what you wanted to do.
yeah, I think it would be helpful to get a little bit more of a budget breakdown on
Okay.
the 160
Yep.
for their costs.
All right.
And just get an idea of the status of the grant, but I think actually they just submitted it, so that's pretty obvious that it'll probably just be in process. And then I had a question of who in the town is gonna be the project manager? And is Chris the person, handle the contracts and all that kind of stuff?
Would it be Chris on this?
I don't know, so I had a question, who will be that person?
I don't know why, but I assumed it would be her, it'd be Sarah.
Yeah, that's
don't
what we just need to
Yeah, okay.
confirm how they're gonna do that. And then, and you may know more from their presentation, but I just wanted to kind of confirm that, so their map shows several different kinds of routes and options. So what I wasn't clear is if what this budget will do is address the cost estimate, design and engineering of this, which I think, as I have understood it, be the primary path, which is the one that goes along Old Fall River Road. Or is this also going, or is this money also going to include that little spur that goes through the conservation land? That kind of little spur up there. Is it going to include the cost of marking any of the lanes that go through South Dartmouth? I wasn't sure.
I'm not sure either on that.
Okay, so I
don't
just wanted to
remember
kind of get a
that either. Yeah, I
clarification.
don't remember that.
Yeah.
And I thought that she said there was a few things that they weren't, they hadn't decided yet,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's why there were two routes up there. I think
Right.
she decided which route they were gonna
Right.
go. One goes through the, a little bit before the reservoir.
Right,
Yeah.
And it's kind of rugged there.
Yeah. So
Off of
they weren't
Off of
sure.
Yellow Hill Road, the other one goes Copa cut out in the back.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of just get a sense of,
Yep.
because I do think they have a primary route, which is Font's Corner, the Old Fall River
Right.
Road. So I just wanted to understand if any of the money is going towards any of these other route options, which are really secondary or secondary kind of routes to the main path.
they've been working, not just particularly them, but they've been working on that for years and
Yeah.
years, because years ago, when I had an office downtown, I can remember speaking to, and I can't remember his name, his goal was to go from Fall River all the way up to the Cape on bikes, a bike path.
Yeah.
So they're getting there now.
I know, it's interesting to see this coming together in its pieces.
Right,
Yeah.
I have a fuzzy recollection that there was some bit, railway.
right,
that-
the railway,
That was
yes.
involved in part of
Mhm,
this.
You're right,
Yeah, I think they ended up having to abandon that
Right.
because it was still an active
railroad.
rail.
Okay.
They
And
only use it.
they weren't getting much
Right,
cooperation
Fine.
yeah,
on
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
That's the one that goes through, it goes by the town forest, yeah, it is.
yeah.
So that dictates my next question about is this preservation of the historic railway.
yeah.
Forget that, okay.
All right, any other kinds of questions? Budget breakdown, who's managing this project, and just making sure we're clear about where the money will be focused, given the trail and options that are available to us. Okay. Next is the Dias Landing dinghy storage improvements. This is total amount requested is $9,000 from CPA. Total cost of the project is $50,000. The other 41. Let's see if we have a sense of where the other 41's coming from.
CPA have 9,000,
Yeah, 9,000 from CPA.
or is it 25? I'm confused. If known, CPA funding needed 25. And then in the front, it says if known. Is it two different things we're looking at? Scenic Greenway. Oh, I think that's wrong, that's why. See,
Oh, okay.
I've got 9,000 there, and then.
Oh, yeah, those are their eligibility consultations, so these are the actual application.
I don't have that. Okay,
So probably want a little clarification of where the other 41,000 comes from.
There's reference to an SEC grant.
Oh, that's what I missed. Where did you see
Seaport
that?
Economic something.
No, I don't have that.
Oh, there you go.
You know what?
It's okay,
Seaport Economic Council
Guy's Landing,
grant.
too.
Okay, got it.
that's what I got. No, you can keep it, it's all right.
You want to see it? It's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one question I had, just to get a sense of what the estimate was, what the basis of the estimate was.
Just, I think I had that
Mm-hmm.
before, that's why.
Okay.
I've got it home.
Yeah, there was one with,
Any other questions on this?
I
Yeah.
remember the Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy came
explained
through that,
Murphy
yeah.
came for that one, they explained
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I got it home, I think
Yep.
we got,
Yep.
Michelle, you gave that to us before, that's
Uh-huh.
why I don't have it now.
Yep.
It's in the pile. That pile keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
My question was, okay, this is a fairly small capital investment directly for the purpose of improving a facility that the Waterways Committee has that is specifically a revenue activity that enterprise fund has. Okay. Waterways Commission is an enterprise fund, so it's, it's essentially a closed system in its.
Because they are rented. Because
Yeah,
those,
I mean, they get rental income directly from each of those little, silly little stands that they have now, which didn't work. But, I don't know, I mean, my immediate thought is, okay, why not just do this, why shouldn't they just do this out of the enterprise fund? And, of course, it's hard to get that information. See, there are no waterways minutes since last May, nor appearances in the town calendar of meetings. No agendas or such.
I don't think they have a lot of meetings, from
Yeah,
what
they
I
do.
understand.
They do.
They do?
Well, who knows?
It's on video.
But it's, they're about as secret as the National Security Agency. And anyway, but the specific question is, why not enterprise fund?
okay, yeah, why couldn't this project be paid for by the Waterways Enterprise Fund? Yeah.
Because it's specifically related to a revenue activity.
Great. Other questions, information?
I think it's a good project, because I think, the pictures and everything, I think it needs to be cleaned up down there, so.
And there's a need, I mean, I will say, as much as we've
There is-
disagreed to a
there
lot
is-
of
yeah,
things, I
but
mean,
there
that,
is a
that
need.
thing down there,
Yeah.
the racks themselves, I mean, there are more and more people,
Wanna
that are
use
tying
it,
them.
yeah.
I mean, it's something it's for our residents, so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
There are more people
Well,
out there.
it'd be good if they worked. A couple of times I counted them, and they were only about 50-60% used.
I think they're all rented out,
Rented, yes, used, no.
well,
Well, they're
as long
still
as they get the
paying.
revenue, they don't care.
Yeah, still paying for it.
Okay, the next is the Dartmouth Heritage and Trail Interpretive Panels. And this is the amount requested is $1,210 from the CPA funds. Total cost of this proposal is $1,560. This is to make copies of the two panels that have been recently installed as part of the Heritage Trail. That's the Pascomanskett and the Lincoln Park. These copies of these panels, they're reproductions at a smaller scale, are then installed in town hall, and I guess the other ones are somewhere in town hall. From Dartmouth 350
Oh, downstairs.
downstairs
The little,
someplace.
alcoves that they have there,
Yeah.
the old pool school locker area.
Yeah, yeah,
Across from building.
yeah. So just, cut to the chase, I don't believe this is eligible because it doesn't fit in any of these boxes, so it doesn't, so it's not recreational,
Passive
Right.
recreation,
yeah.
you can walk by and look at the panels.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's gonna fit there. It's not open space, and it's also not preserving anything historic, even though it's historic information, that it's educational for sure. And it is a neat thing to have, this replica at town hall, but in terms of CPA eligibility, it just falls outside of these boxes. So, I think, like the economic one that we talked about earlier, just doesn't fit in the operational kind of definition of what CPA funds can be used for.
That'd be a perfect one to go to the town hall and get them to pay for it.
Yeah, it's still a very worthwhile thing to do, for sure,
Knock yourself out.
for sure.
It's really that expensive.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, for the residents when they come in, I think it's a great thing.
So my thought is, we'll send out the letters to the sponsors with the questions.
DCTV?
Yeah, DCTV.
DCTV, and DCTV, we, at our last meeting, we're gonna cover it with administrative funds. So we don't need to consider that for, thank you, for,
Thank you.
for a warrant article. So we'll send a letter to each of the sponsors, invite them to a public hearing at our March meeting. And then for the two that are, we've determined not to be eligible, I would let them know at this stage. I don't think we should have them waste their time and energy to come and talk about the project, and there's no gray area in this for those two. So I would just tell them that our determination is that they did not meet the eligibility requirements for the CPA, but we think nevertheless, we think they are important things, and don't take that as a reflection on the nature of what they are asking support for. Okay. Very good. Next, our agenda is the archaeological survey. And the two things is we have an update, but part of the update is we as a committee need to, there's been a request from the contractor to extend their deadline, extend their contract at no cost so that they can complete the work and all that kind of stuff. And maybe at the end, I'll take up a motion to do that, to endorse that. But Chris, if you could
Right.
give us a lowdown here.
Well,
Nice to see you.
Thank you. I just got a memo from Holly at the Public Archaeology Lab, and they sent a draft PDF document, 120 pages. And we're wading through it. She wants to get comments from myself and Sue Guiducci, who
Yeah.
we've been working with her the whole time on this and gone out on field visits and a lot of walking, especially up in the north part of Dartmouth where a lot of work hadn't been done previously. And they're a bunch of new sites that she's identified, especially using the LiDAR, so there's some really good new material available in this updated document. I think you'll all see that it was well worth doing. After we've reviewed it, I think Sue's all done, I need a little bit more time. She's gonna take those suggestions, we might do a little bit more field work, just to identify the question, or, deal with the questions that we had. And then it will go to the printers and be produced, and copies, without the sensitive maps will be given to the appropriate entities. And then Holly will be doing a public presentation of the findings and the report. And we're hoping to make that available to CPC, obviously the DHC, members, the town planner and assistant, DNRT, there's a couple of other people. And if there's anybody else who anybody here thinks would be useful to have in on that meeting, and see what she's produced for an update, then let me know.
Think it'll be done by town meeting?
Pardon?
Will it be done by town meeting?
Yes, should be. I mean, it could be done now, but she just wanted to make sure we had a chance to look it over and make sure there was nothing that we thought should be emphasized or whatever, so. So it's almost done. Really,
Good.
really close.
Good,
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
good work.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a plus.
Yeah,
That is a
good work.
plus. On February 7th, I think it was February 7th, I got I think it was when Mr. McGinnis had forwarded to me, he said the contract could be signed. That makes sense? I'm looking at Michelle, and so I'm confusing her, so I could be wrong there. There's the extension, I know at the end of January, they'd asked for an extension because their contract expired January 31st. It's at no cost, but they want to extend it so they could complete this work and have this period of time for it to be reviewed and any kind of corrections or additions and stuff like that to be made. And I think they want the 6-week extension to go until March 15th. Here I have, February 13th, I have from Mr. McGinnis, the contract is all set to sign, and it can be printed and a hard copy. So, if I could entertain a motion from the committee, since we are paying for this through our administrative funds, approving the extension of the contract through
Motion.
March 15th. Second from Stuart. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. And opposed? That's unanimous. So Michelle, when you do get a hold of that, just give me a buzz. I'll swing by and sign it. Very good. Our annual report, it's sent to you all, a copy, I think, this afternoon.
I didn't get to read it.
Just so you have it, so this is just to let you know that, it did go in. It's generally due at the end of January each year. We're good to go there. We are trying to, I can look at this for a second. Just want to pull this up for a second. In terms of where we are at the, as we closed December 31st. So this annual report is for a calendar year, the activity. And so, couple of things to note here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so as of the end of 2023, a little more than $15.3 million of CPA funds have been invested through 90 separate project awards to date. That represents 62 different projects in town. And at the close of, and that represents, when you look at the additional funds, like, say state, some of the projects we've looked at, these proposals, there's state grants involved and things like that. Another, just about $25 million in other private and public investment has been made in those same projects. So it's approximately $40.24 million of investment in those 60 some odd projects that are related to the CPA. And 85% of all the awarded funds have been expended. And so those are some of the highlights, but you can read that report. It kind of just is an overview of the projects that we funded, things that are, what's still outstanding, what our kind of budget looked like, and then kind of the overall totals to date and stuff. But a lot of good work has been done in town, and I have to say, we're spending this evening reviewing proposals. I think we've had the really, really good fortune of having good, competent sponsors for these projects. We have not run ourselves in, not have run into poorly managed projects that have failed. I think we've been blessed by good, competent people who have managed these projects over the years. So hopefully we keep that track record going. The last item I have on our agenda is conservation restrictions. So I did attend the last or February Conservation Commission meeting and talked to the commission about the process for conservation restrictions going forward, the necessity of the town to be the holder of restrictions where we have property that's being acquired by other entities, and that this is typical how it's done elsewhere in the state, but perhaps new, not always how we've done it down here, but the state has wanted to, going forward, make sure that the funding for conservation restrictions went through the town. So I think I think it was understood. There was some reservation, I would say, from my view of the conversation. There was some concern or reservations about capacity. So when you hold a restriction, you have then the duty to inspect the property on an annual basis and, confirm that there have been no violations of the terms of the restriction. And if so, then you also have the responsibility to enforce the restriction. So there was some concern expressed about the capacity to take on a lot of restrictions and that responsibility. So some questions about, could a CR be co-owned kind of co-owned or sponsored by the town and another entity. So I don't know, I said I would kind of look that up and try to research that. Is there ability to subcontract the service of monitoring? And if so, who would pay for that service? So,
Couldn't you have a committee, a volunteer committee? Or not?
I don't know. I think that's something that DNRT uses volunteers
Right.
for their CR, because I
Right.
just saw that they were offering a training for
Right.
volunteers. You walk they train you on
Right.
how to
How to
walk
do
the
it, yeah.
perimeters and what you're looking for and stuff like that. So the other thing is, it's gonna be helpful to have a bit of a process outlined for if you're DNRT or Buzzards Bay Coalition or Trust for Public Land, any of these entities that we've dealt with in land conservation, if you were to have a project that you want to put together and get CPA funds for, it would be good to have this process. So how do you secure the conservation restriction? Because you don't want this to be the 11th hour problem of, okay, we've funded the project, now, closing is in 2 months, and then someone approaches Conservation Commission for the restriction, and one, there's a capacity question, or two, there's not an agreement on the terms of it. You don't want this thing to get fouled at the 11th hour when all this money is kind of out there. So better to have something in which, the Conservation Commission is approached prior to an application. Ideally, would be approached prior to an application being submitted, that there would be clarity about the terms and conditions of the CR, and actually I think, is it Mark, or Garrett, I think? Did come up with a kind of a template, conservation restriction. So you'd like to have a lot of this stuff kind of spelled out, so you knew how to line everything out, line everything up, and that we knew that the Conservation Commission was on board with these projects before we took them, made recommendations to town meeting. So there's a little bit of that detail to work out. I'm gonna look at how other towns have done this, just kind of do a little research, because this is not unusual. There's acquisitions, most CPA funding has gone to open space and preservation. So there's a lot of examples about how this is accomplished across the state. So I'm going to look at some of these and just see how they've worked with their Conservation Commission when there's private entities that have been involved, like Audubon or Trust for Public Land and stuff like that. And then see if maybe we can come up with a process that would work with the Conservation Commission. Come back to us so that we would see it and we're comfortable with it, because then I think what we would eventually do is amend our submission guidelines to lay out this process and say, hey, if you're gonna do land conservation, and you want the town to purchase a restriction, you gotta do this, this, and this. Or we need to see this or that, in the same way that we've done with, say, historic preservation. If you need to have someone who's qualified in your project to oversee historic preservation, or you have to go to the historical commission for you to endorse the plans that you want to go forward with, something like that. So it is evolving, but so more to come. I think that's the process thing that probably will come back to us, and but that's where we are.
could you hold the monies in escrow?
Yeah, I think we can, well, that would be one thing, is can we create
Right,
you can create an
escrow account.
escrow,
Yep.
an endowment of some sort that
Right.
would cover those kinds of
Right.
costs. Yep, yep. So that's one of the things I'm curious in other towns,
Yeah.
so, you know,
Mattapoisett
how
just
are
did a
they,
big
how are
one.
they covering
I
it?
just read about it.
Oh, did
I don't
they?
remember.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Mattapoisett, yeah. I'm trying to think. It's a big piece of land. Huh, just read it, because I walked that land a long
Okay.
time ago. If I can remember, I'll email you.
All right, oh, that'd be great, yeah. Okay, that's what I have for our agenda. Our next, meeting is going to, is it March? March 12th.
I will not be here, buddy. I'll be out of town,
Someplace warm?
a little bit.
A little bit warm?
Little bit
What, are you
warm,
going to
huh?
Fall River?
No, Taunton's too far away.
That's the wrong direction.
Actually, I wanna go to, what was the town you was looking for, Granby, or what was that town you were looking for before? I'm heading up there.
Fall River could do it, but
Right.
not Taunton.
Not Taunton, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And March 12th will be a public hearing.
Okay.
So we'll have a public hearing on the, for sponsors to present their proposals. Very good. Any other business questions? All right, thank you all for being here and
Motion?
moving right through. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good to see you all. Thank you for the banana bread.
Hey, if anyone,
Yeah, that was nice.
have a piece for
I
the
didn't wanna
road
spend
if
it,
you
I didn't
want.
wanna spend
Oh,
another
no, no,
$1,100
I-
because we didn't.
I better